I've always had a lot to talk about every month in this series as the rules change and as the situation progresses. But this February feels very much like more of what we had last month. We messed up in December by leaving too much open for too long, resulting in a castrated Christmas followed almost immediately by a long, hard lockdown, which is scheduled to last at least another few months. It's a bit like the first lockdown we had, where almost everywhere's closed. The difference being that the roads this time are still full of traffic for some reason, and that it's really boring because the novelty has worn off. Case numbers are dropping week by week. We're down to below 10,000 new cases a day again now, and the deaths are way below 1,000 daily. We've been here before, but with everything that's gone on since then, I feel like this time it's for good. I can finally see light at the end of the tunnel. The big news this month comes in the form of the vaccine programme and the planned opening of stuff again. This starts with education and outdoor exercise with other households again in March, hairdressers, gyms and larger weddings again in April, being able to see friends and family again in May, and lastly, in June, to finally leave lockdown and to return to normal. Hopefully. For a simpler guide, the website One Way Road to Beer summarises what these changes will mean for people wanting to go to the pub again. These dates aren't guaranteed, they all have a "not before" stamped on them, meaning they could slip to a later date if COVID makes a comeback or whatever. But it's looking hopeful. The vaccine programme has been progressing rapidly. My grandparents and parents have received their first jab, though it will probably still be a matter of months before younger people have theirs. And then of course there's the second dose to consider, which will slow down the first rollout. But I don't think the country could be doing any better with what it's got right now. All we need to do now is to wait. It's also nice to hear less of the anti-vax stuff. This was rife during January. I was absolutely burned out from the hundreds of anti-vax statements popping up all over my channel. It seemed as though every single element of the pandemic had to be critiqued and dismissed in some way. Annoying stuff like vaccines don't stop people from spreading the virus. And it was tough to argue against stuff like this because it was an unknown. But it seemed unfair that they could just confidently state something like that to justify ignoring lockdowns, while the rest of us had to err on the side of caution by being like, well, they might do. Why do you think vaccines wouldn't stop people from spreading the virus? It's just that we didn't know at the time because it was too soon to know. So it is very nice to finally start getting evidence that vaccines might stop the spread almost completely. Screw the people who confidently stated otherwise, and for muddying the already very murky waters. One by one, my assumptions and suspicions about the pandemic are proving to be more accurate than those from the people I disagree with. I kind of wish I wasn't right about some of these things, but it has given me confidence in my own ability to judge stuff, and renewed strength to fight those I think are wrong. I guess the current battle is against people using the new variants as proof that we'll never be able to beat it and that we might as well give up and accept it'll be here forever, while I think it's still too early to know for sure about that. Let's stick to the plan. Keep locking down, keep with the vaccine rollout, and hope for the best. Having heard close friends and family going on about how unsafe vaccines were, I tried to figure out where this attitude was coming from, and I think it's Facebook. There aren't anti-vax groups as such, but many hashtags associated with the pandemic or vaccine have been used to spread negative posts and videos about the vaccines. It seems to be all that some people post, and I did find it fascinating, if wholly depressing, to go down that rabbit hole while researching it. Again, this vaccines cause bad reactions argument is much like the others they've used, where they seem to require a lot less proof to state that than it requires to dismiss it. Even I know firsthand people who have had side effects from the vaccines. One, with pre-existing conditions associated with mobility, suddenly found they weren't able to walk for a few hours. I'm sure Facebook posters would have loved this. But a few hours passed and they could walk again, and that was that. As always, my gut tells me to look at the numbers and the trials and to weigh it up against the risk of the virus itself, which seems significantly higher and more widespread. Leading the charge towards immunity is Israel, who are ahead of the rest of us with their vaccination programme. I assume England's going to mirror their situation in a couple of months, so it pays to analyse where they are right now. Israel's infection and death rates still haven't fully dropped off. But then when you look at the data, there are delays to the reporting, and of the more recent cases, they're almost entirely made up of unvaccinated people. I predict already that anti-vaxxers are going to fixate on the fact that the coronavirus hasn't been eradicated in places like Israel, and to use that as proof that the vaccine doesn't work. Well, I'll be pointing out that it's the anti-vaxxed who are preventing it from being eradicated. The misinformation about the pandemic has been a huge, family-dividing, friendship-splitting, life-ending problem for a while now, but I think we're approaching the end game. I wish I had pretty footage to show you, or anecdotal stories to share with you, but I've been sat inside so much that I haven't had much of an opportunity to do this. I can definitely say that many people are not abiding by the lockdown. While I'm sat at home like a sucker, others are out enjoying the beaches and parks, and if I go out to get footage of this, then I'm immediately just as much to blame as they are. But I do have one lockdown story to share with you. Have you ever tried printing something when you don't have a printer? What a nightmare. It's bad enough at the best of times. A printer is something I've tried my best to avoid having because I hate the things, and because, despite the hassle, there's always someone somewhere with one that I can use if I really need to. But the lockdown has made it harder. When the libraries are closed and when social contact is restricted, printing opportunities have become increasingly rare. My girlfriend has one at her work, but even she's working from home so much now that it's hard to get to it. So we got a printer, one that inexplicably prints a whole page of colour for absolutely no reason several times a day. I hate it already. But we forgot about the paper, so I went on a quest to find some. You think paper's everywhere until you need it. Aldi didn't have any, Poundland didn't have any, Pound Stretcher had everything but. I had to trek to the city centre to try and find some, passing through Drake's Circus on the way. And it was dead. This is in the middle of the day. Admittedly, a weekday. But it was silent. What happened? I'm sure it wasn't this quiet last month. I got this footage just because it's stuff like this that makes it feel like there's still a pandemic going on. I've never seen it this quiet before, even during the pandemic. Many of the shops are closed, but many have shut down for good. Debenhams isn't exactly my kind of shop, but it's still sad to see another high street giant closing down. I now look down the high street and see entire blocks that are empty or closing down. I'm reminded by how my parents always said that city centres are dying. I've never been aware of that in my lifetime until this pandemic took hold, and now it just makes me feel really sad. To see places, even ones I've only been to once or twice, shutting shop for good just feels like a one-way route towards an online future, and I don't like it. I moved to the city because I work online, and when my work is done, I appreciate being able to go somewhere real and full of real people. This pandemic feels like a preview of what an increasingly digital future will feel like. This far into the pandemic, even the most sociable people I know now don't bother to make the effort to meet with friends, instead finding it comforting just to stay at home. And I don't like that either. I should be looking forward to things opening up again, but I don't really. I'm hoping once it happens I'll slip back into my old ways again and that the good times will come naturally. But I'm starting to think it won't ever be like it was before. This whole thing has gone on for long enough to become a great divider in my life. My 20s were before this pandemic and my 30s after. And I'll admit, I wasn't ready for that. There were things I thought I would still cling on to from before this pandemic that I'm beginning to accept won't be there after it's over. We've been stripped of the things that used to give our lives structure and purpose, and without them, everybody's had to stop and to re-evaluate their lives. I've known people who have used this pandemic to move to a new house, to change jobs, to start a course that they've been putting off for years. Friends that have married, had children, moved on with their careers, or moved away for one reason or another. So you can't really return to how things were before. You can try, but everything and everybody will have changed just enough that it won't feel quite the same. It would be like trying to fix a shattered vase. The cracks would show, and it would never be as good as it once was. I instead need to accept this, to see post-pandemic as a new start, complete with its own quirks and benefits. But it's hard to do when, right now, I can only see the remnants of the life I'm leaving behind.